Hello, everyone, and well met. Fowlin Hawk speaking. Welcome to Lorelines. Last week we did our first Spoilercast, and we kind of went all over the place. Today we are trying to be a little more structured, but structured in the way that you guys know, which is still pretty loose, to be honest. So I want to welcome everyone to the podcast today. See, we've got a few recurring viewers and a few new people. And obviously, welcome team. Hey guys, how was your week?
I'm talking with food in my mouth.
Disgusting.
My week was very bonkable, and we'll leave it at that.
My week was pretty self-indulgent in terms of artistic productivity.
Oh, hey, same. I've been writing, and I haven't shared it in the Discord because it's a little racy, but it's been a good time. It feels good to actually get some words on the page.
I didn't mean self-indulgent in that.
Hey, self-indulgence is
doesn't matter.
self-indulgence.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I've been doing a lot more fic writing too, of both the racy and non-racy variety, as well as doing PhD applications, which are decidedly less racy.
Self-indulgence is drinking 3 pots of coffee and getting in a knife fight with God.
Hell yeah.
I thought that was just the
Fair.
MSQ.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're a ninja.
Man, my week feels boring in comparison. I just worked and read some stuff and leveled my characters.
That's my life. That's my life. Lots of working. I just finished Pandemonium an hour ago.
Oh, good, you finished it. Excellent.
Oh, you did finish it.
I did finally.
You beat the Jersey Phoenix.
I don't understand that, but
The Phoenix from
It's not a
Boise.
phoenix, it's a phoenix.
it's a phoenix.
From
Oh, I
Boise.
see. It's the spelling. I get it now.
I have a different nickname
The
for it.
phoenix. Okay.
Unsundered KFC.
Heck
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
How did you enjoy Count Simpula?
I immediately thought. I mean, straight real talk. Any Warcraft people will know that it looks very much like, like all of those
Denathrius.
vampiric. Yeah, it's Denathrius. It's any vampire blood elf, basically. What's going on here?
See, I just appreciated his exaltation and devotion to La Habrea. That was fantastic and on point. He went a little nutty, but his intentions were good.
Yeah, I think we all go a little nutty for La Habrea sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Eric Thonius is Simon Belmont.
You mean Master La Habrea.
Master La Habrea.
No, Eric Thonius is my boyfriend. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
He's also a dungeon master besides.
And then we've
Hey.
got as Hesperos as Dracula. So it's literally one big Castlevania reference. Prove me wrong.
Oh boy. What a
What
mess.
is mad?
What a mess.
What a miserable pile of creations.
Yeah, like you could do
He's the
anything
one
you
that
want.
did it.
You could do anything you want, but you make the dungeon actually gloomy because it's thematic. I mean, could have been one of these.
Miserable pile of ape.
Oh, lordy.
Oh,
And Meowth is already dead.
Good.
No.
We
I
hadn't even
enjoy
made a
killing her.
We hadn't even made a reference to the hippocampus giving good head.
oh boy.
Hey, you leave
And
you
here I
leave
thought it was
Sewer
the
Dog
floor
alone.
boss.
I'm checking for if we have a bonk command. We don't. Darn.
You have to remember, I'm the one in control of creating all the commands.
Uh-oh.
This
No,
was a
we need
mistake.
to rectify that immediately.
Dom Arden over here. Well, anyway.
As a treat.
A little bit. Eat hot chip and bonk.
Oh boy, how to get back on track. So,
Well,
we
since
could
you
start
just
by...
finished Pandemonium, why don't you give us your impressions of
Yeah.
of Pandemonium?
okay, well, I tanked it fine until the third one, and then I was very confused as to where to go. You know, just mechanically. But no, as a zone, I was really I loved the atmospheric, like the blueness and the depth of the distance as you go in. Before I even said hello to Themis, I walked all the way to the gate of the castle, just to see if I could. Square has a very bad habit of making invisible walls in cool places, such as like the Crystal Tower instance outside in Mordona. You know, you just can't get much
Yes.
closer. But like, I was very pleased. I could go through the initial square. I could go all the way up to the stairs. Got to walk around a little bit. It's pretty cool.
It's great. It's actually where I'm standing in game right now, so that I can listen to the music and dote on Ericthonius.
Yeah, the music's good too.
The best
the music was
reaction.
amazing this time around.
The music is good. The best reaction I've heard from anyone regarding Pandemonium would be one of my friends, and he saw it and he was just like, "Oh my god, it's Torghast."
It's Torghast. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, cross pollination.
Yeah.
As far as like things I took from it, the Phoenix did not look as I imagined it, which was a
No,
nice
it was a
treat.
failure. Fun Joyzy.
It was a Jesus Christ.
He does that too well.
This is one of those jokes that
impressive.
only gets funny the more you say it.
Yep, I hate it. It's great.
When I saw Ericthonius transform right off the bat, I'm like, oh, so we're all just doing this now. So again, this just feeds into my notion that how the heck did the ancients like
Did you
not
see the mask up
I-
top?
So like,
how is
I
this
heard
just now
someone
happening?
suggest-
That's my point. How is this
literally,
just now happening?
my first impression of Eric Thonius was him running up to us and doing the equivalent of taking his pants off in front of us and being like,
Yep.
"Let's go!"
And then getting out the chains, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
just-
honestly, though, I saw someone suggest that it may only be Hades that sees it as so wrong and, you know,
Yeah,
on
maybe
that
it's just
level. Because everyone else is fucking doing it.
Yeah. I mean, if you
Maybe
could
he's
transform
just-
into whatever you wanted and be, 30 feet taller at the same time.
Exactly. Tenebris Queen says hooked on Phoenix. Oh my
Hooked on
goodness.
Phoenix. Oh, no.
Phoenix.
My raid static is currently hooked on Phoenix.
Can't even say the word. That's how bad it is.
Yep.
Foy.
Just messing around.
Boy.
Foy.
Oi!
Oh, no. Well, I
hell
think
is
it's time to
wrong with
close
you
out the
guys?
podcast, everybody. I hope you had
we
an
found
excellent
our
time.
new.
No, I've been literally waiting to make these jokes for about a
He's been
minute.
holding
We
back.
found our new Gulas.
Yeah.
He's much
All
hotter
right.
this time.
So, Fowles, I understand it. We
Yeah.
wanted to go through the zones today and,
Sorta.
and talk about our impressions of the zones.
But
and
this
some
happens.
things that,
It's our
we wanna
10
talk
minute
about.
10-minute it's all love and chaos.
We went to fight him.
Chaos reigns forevermore.
Chaos
We
reigns
want,
forever.
we're going to fight him. Anyways,
It's not fire, it's
Charlian.
Foya.
How about that Charlian?
Yeah, how about Charlian? Goodness
So glad we
gracious.
finally have it.
Same.
The city is gorgeous. I love hanging out there. The music's really nice.
Oh, no, it
I
is
like it a lot
correct.
better than Labyrinthos.
It is not fire, it's Foya.
Foya.
Fire.
So
It just
I'm glad
sounds
that
French.
we get to just visit the Levier estate and just like run around and no one stops us.
Yeah, but we get
All
warned
these
not to go,
butlers?
though.
And I mean, Ameliance is there. I imagine she told them that we have the run of the place.
And like we go and visit the school dorms, but half of them we can't go into.
I will say it was nice to see that Emeliance is the real power behind House Levier and not Fortional.
Mhm.
And the Scions too.
As it usually
Yeah.
happens, to be fair.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Meowth there. It's vastly more realistic than this illusion we
Everyone's
have.
been like, "Oh, Tataru is actually a Zodiac," but really,
it's
Emiliance.
Emiliance.
Yeah. I will say I did appreciate the caterpillar parties. That was awesome and a great throwback to some of the older RPGs.
Caterpillar?
You've lost me.
So when the NPCs are following you and we're
Aha.
like leading them around town, they travel in a line, and it's like the old school SNES
I see.
RPGs
Yes, it
where
is.
they're like all in a
yeah.
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
Final
just
Fantasy
didn't know
VIII.
the term.
We just
Yeah,
never called
exactly.
them that
Yeah.
It's a caterpillar party.
in my neck of the woods.
I would have called it like ducklings.
Ducklings.
That's what I was
Same.
thinking of as ducklings.
Same.
Quack, quack.
Yeah, lead them all over a cliff. You come back and they're gone.
Or lead them over a
I'll
waterfall.
lead a certain someone down. Exactly.
I will say, just on Charlian as a whole, I liked the zone so much that I was level 84 Fisher before I even left the
Yeah.
hub city.
I had to drag him out of the city in order for him to actually do MSQ.
I was just vibing, man. And like, I went to the studium, and I went to the library, and I went to the estate, and I went into the forum. I did everything. I just walked around, and I got every fishing spot. You know, maxed out.
We had to get you back on track, and it took some dragging out of me.
Yes, typically does take some sort of deadline to get me to do something.
I will say I liked Charlian. Not a huge fan of Labyrinthos, though. And we'll talk about that more later. But Charlian was cool. I like the layout. I like that there's a lot of green space in the city.
Yes.
That's not something we've gotten a lot of in the past. We got a little bit with it at
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like an actual third of the city is just green space, and I really appreciated that.
They got like a really good park space right outside of the Studium and Nomenon, as well as like just trees interspersed throughout all the buildings.
Yeah. I would just sit under a tree and craft.
What I got from Charlian is an interesting mix of Greek architecture and Mediterranean architecture with British climate.
So on the topic of Britain, I called this out during my playthrough, and I'm going to upload it too. As soon as they said, "Hey, the food here is really bland," I was like, "Oh my god, Charlene's Britain."
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And the only decent thing they have is a Starbucks.
Yeah, that's a good shop though.
No. Yeah, but they have a really good Starbucks there at the Last Stand.
The kind that sells food
And burgers.
and burgers. Yeah, it's a proper bistro pub.
Like really good looking burgers, really greasy burgers.
Like burgers that are so massive, they're like the size of someone's
What
head.
percentage of the budget was taken to rendering the hamburgers?
Oh god.
Let's
The
not
pickles.
talk about where my brain went when you said really good looking hamburgers.
What?
Oh my gosh,
It's
Starbunkles.
Starbunkles. Oh, that's great.
That's
perfect.
cute.
I've also heard Starbucks, but I like that too.
Starbucks, that's a good one.
There's so many good possibilities.
If they wanted to go with the full British experience, they could have had like Charlian fish and chips too.
That sounds amazing.
Starbucks.
I mean, they've got to have good access to fish. It's an island.
You know, that reminds me, speaking of The Last Stand, during some part of the MSQ, we're going around talking to people sitting at the tables. And one of the customers is this Miko boy who's like eating this massive lobster dinner. He says he's saved up like for weeks or something about just to go and get himself some yums.
You ordered
You guys
those
remember
crab
that?
cakes from Red Lobster
I
that he's
remember.
still waiting on.
When you're delivering the food.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that, right? You can be a busser.
Yep.
Warrior of Light,
That's on the
busser of
quest.
tables. Why isn't that the title you get for that quest? Busser of tables.
Speaking on titles, I really hope we get a chance to be in
Busser
Archon.
of light.
That would be cool. Did you say server of light?
Especially now that we
Also
have that room under the statue.
I
Oh,
said
yeah.
Busser of light.
Let's see. Starting first off, I love that we had to go through customs, and the scene with customs with all of us just kind of naming off our jobs and what we're there for. She kind of gave us the look of like an adventurer, huh? Sounds sus. Then we get to Estinian, who has to sit there and think about things and gets really awkward until Kryle runs in.
It's really funny. I just kill shit, all right? Like, what do you...
Even more fun when you just be like, I'm the champion of Eorzea. And they're like, well, that sounds like you made that up.
Oh yes. So Arden
I did that on Fandaniel.
That's great.
Arden brings up a good point about something Ayumi was supposed to do. So Ayumi guested on Maelstrom
Are we doing
Radio
this
on
now?
Friday. Yeah, we're doing it now before we all forget.
Okay.
I think you would like us to wait until we forget.
Yeah, that's why we can't let that.
Yeah, we had a guest spot on Maelstrom Radio.
Exactly.
I'll link their Twitter. It was a really fun interview. I was in the viewership, Ayumi, and
Yeah,
thought you did a fun job.
I did a bit on Maelstrom Radio, and I promised I'd sing a shanty in lieu of the spot I took over for the streamer that they were going to have on. So.
And he didn't, so now he has to do it today.
I guess, yeah. We've already discussed this before stream.
Yes, as was said, don't make promises on the internet.
The internet never forgets.
So here it goes.
All right.
Who lives in a dream city under the sea?
Selk.
Sleepy, grumpy, and cranky is he. Dragged along by the red ride by old Abbott and Hith. So get ready for nonsense and creating some myths.
Selk.
Oh, I'm dying.
That was awful. I loved it.
Worth it.
I'm dying, Wordle.
That's me on a sea cruise, half drunk.
I'm shedding tears right now.
Colrath says encore. I think he's done. Encore.
I have not drunk enough tea for this.
Half drunk and seasick.
Yep.
As long as they keep forgetting to make me sing the Guardian anthem, I'm fine.
I think we're still waiting on that one, which, I mean...
No. We got that one during the Garlean episode.
And I mean, Meowth,
Did
if you
we?
keep saying that, we're never going to forget. We're always going to remember.
I'm just trying to test the waters, thank you.
They're fine.
Yeah, when's the vinyl drop of Ayumi's shanties?
When I get the EP out.
The vinyl drop when we get Lahi vinyl drop.
No.
Lahi Savage.
Lahi Brea.
He was a hero of the people.
Arden, I've half a mind to share what you shared in live chat.
You guys can just
Oh my
record,
god.
All
record
Really?
from the stream. I
Half a
accept
mind.
my fate.
So, we are so far off topic right now.
You wrote this on yourself.
I mean, this is what you guys get when I don't get to have caffeine or food or anything before podcast starts. So
Just drink the vodka and be fine.
Arden's rating 20 hours a week now.
I mean, that was only the first week. Not that bad this week. But we did hit almost 30 hours of rating week 1.
Yeah.
Back to Charlian. So who thought that we were going to explore the entire library, not just one floor? Because we look at the scene, we look at the trailer, and there's floors upon floors upon floors of books,
And
including the
Archive.
restricted section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are only for people who aren't guests.
Are we,
including the restricted section of the library where Graha is. So I was like, so we're going to go down there and do some kind of quest and get to go in there and read some really, really neat books, right?
Nope, off screen.
I think it's not impossible that we're going to do just that in the coming patches, as if
Maybe,
we're helping the students of Aldesian, for example.
Yeah,
There might be
I
a
agree.
Gubal's type.
I was quite intrigued when one of the books that they precisely get from the Forbidden Sections is the Garon Oracles.
Which is another book that we, as a team, kind of look at with the side eye.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We only have one quote from it, but it's.
I
a
just
teller.
wanted the sequel to The Boy and the Dragon Gay. That's all I wanted.
It's on Amazon.
Part 2.
What do you mean that's not Brit-Tranestinian?
Sorry, yeah.
The Man and the Dragon Gayer.
You can't see me, but I'm face palming right now.
Amazing.
We don't talk lore. We talk.
Porn?
We were making a joke earlier when we weren't
See,
live. We called it. This is lewd lines.
I was gonna say that the place where Graha went that's sealed off, that's just all the lewd stuff that they keep in
It's the
Charlan.
adult section.
Yeah, they just can't let it corrupt the general populace because it's.
Aw, but why not?
He had to levitate
Because
himself over to it.
They wouldn't get anything done. There would be no progress in the city.
They would all join the poetry club.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, there would be progress after a fashion.
Yeah,
Pro creative process, maybe.
you see what you've done? Look, Kappa is sitting there waiting for her Hyflidea smut pillow. That's my wife.
I mean, fair.
I mean, yeah, that's
We're all
fair.
doing that.
Hyflidus literally made everyone question their sexuality.
It didn't make me question mine. I'm all about that.
They did an absolutely fantastic job with this character, yeah.
Fully agree. As far as the library goes in the forbidden sections, as long as we're complaining, not only didn't we get to explore it actually, but if you look down into the into the library, if you just look straight down, you'll notice that there are no NPCs walking around even down there.
No, there isn't.
So
It's
they
just,
didn't even think to copy paste any people like with the illusion
It's
of
empty.
research. It's just empty.
Yeah.
So I
I'm a
assume that
whiner.
we're going down there later, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I really want there to be a Scion quest and give us the option of getting Scion tattoos.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Oh yeah, that would
Some
be nice.
Archons
I'm
have
the
Archon
scholar of
marks.
slaughter. Like, what's going on here?
God,
Like, I
Archon
want to know,
marks.
like, I would like to know the process by which you would go and get an Archon tattoo, because I know there's different types of Archon tattoos. One was Thancred's survival type training. The other one, of course, relies more on knowledge of the learned, which was more like Moonbreeda's and Urianger's. So
You have to write a thesis.
Yeah, it's basically
to
do
write
a
a thesis.
dissertation and defense.
You think
and-
about if you think about it, the whole Archon criteria is similar to how the convocation was divided in between those who are experts in a
Yes.
certain
Yes.
branch of knowledge and others that excel at a certain discipline.
That's right. Practical experts versus knowledge based. Wasn't it revealed that Ultima was the socialite
No, Ultima is the patron of the arts.
patron of the arts? Who was it? Maybe it was a man. I'll have to look at my notes.
Which one?
One of them was just like-
Enlightenment and Rhetoric is Sigejorm. Van Daniel is a scientist. Extant Phenomena, fuck you. Metzelk is the keeper of the keeper
Underworld,
of the
yeah.
underworld. Asim is the traveler and the counselor to the people.
found it, yeah. Did you copy my notes?
No, I'm reading. I'm trying to remember from memory.
I'm just teasing. I'm looking at I'm sworn one was like
And Pashtarot is the
law keeper.
holder
He's
of
the policeman.
discipline. Yeah, basically, yeah. He's the police.
he's the police.
Which is interesting because his
Ambassador.
what's it called is the Night Star. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And
Trying
well,
to fit
we
Pastoral
know-
into the
we know
cops theme.
Lidbus, who is the mediator. We know Mitron and Logriff are terrestrial life forms, aquatic life forms.
Elidibus
And
having
the only
his
ones-
role as the mediator means we still don't know his epithet, though.
Fair. And the only ones that are not mentioned, or that Hades forgot to mention, are Nabrialis and Deudalphon. Oh yeah, of course.
Forgot.
Did he forget, really?
Forgot.
Yeah. As if
He's
we
like,
would
who is
forget.
Nabrialis again?
Oh yeah.
It's that one weird dude who keeps showing up and trying to prove himself.
And there's we got further confirmation that Halmarut is the dude.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I'm telling you, I make something up and then it becomes like canon, so I need to stop this right now.
No, you need to keep going. You need to go deeper.
Because I made up this stupid headcanon or this like shonen slice of life of all of the convocation members, and I hope it doesn't become reality because it's really dumb.
I mean, we got a
Fantastic.
high school AU manga, so
I mean, you need to go into it now. You can't just leave us hanging.
No.
We need to immortalize this for
Perhaps
when it
another
becomes
stream.
reality.
Just
I am
no,
not saying
that's
this on
fine.
air.
off
This
air
is like,
then.
no, these are my ideas.
Come visit us at our Discord, where you will get the things said to you.
And Merlolth is the expert in medicine and healing, and Lahabrea is the master of creation magic in a society who is master of creation magic. So.
Yeah, expert of experts. I'm still nervous about this pandemonium stuff. Speaking of.
Just wait till you chew on it for a while, and that's
Too Charlayan.
Charlayan times.
So I think Aros had said that they think that the forum uniform is hot, and I don't know what's going on with that.
It's very long.
I like it a lot. I hope we get access to it in like the Mog Station or something.
I think it's the tie. Ties are oddly appealing.
They have that side quest where you get to wear it for like 30 minutes for that Lalafell. I thought it was quite fetching.
That, and it is strangely, extremely well fitted for what it looks like. And there's no like ripping, tearing, anything that kind of pushes it out of shape.
And I have to say that the design of the upper half is really reminiscent of ancient robes.
Oh, absolutely. So, actually, it was funny. The tenured professor robes, I believe, if you're walking around in the studium, I was actually wearing my Elpis robes in there, and I took a side-by-side shot, and they are almost identical.
Yeah, so we may have not exactly hit the mark in terms of Verna being the
leader of Charlayan. But it's definitely...
But the thing about Charlayan trying to be a ripoff of the ancients is actually more spot on that.
Yeah, it's definitely new Amarot.
They literally were like, "Hey, can I copy your homework?" And they were like, "Just make it look a little different."
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, Vana, do you have any ideas for our society?" And
can I
like,
borrow your homework?
Yeah.
I mean, minus the fire raining from the sky. Do you know how to take that out?
Oh boy.
I mean, they even know the word the ancients use for the ethereal sea. They tell you before the Aetioscope, so I can only assume that Vena told them.
They also seem to have casual access to time travel.
Yes, I was about to bring that up, and this is the more problematic portion of Charlayan, where they're like, what's his name? The fishing guy. He's working on his thesis. And he's like, "Hey, did you know time travel is a thing?" And the professor's like, "Oh yeah, we've known about that for a while. We couldn't let you use it because you weren't tenured or anything. But yeah, we've got a time machine." And I'm just like, "What the fuck?"
Now you know why I've been losing my mind for weeks.
You just need approval to use it, and yeah, it's it's in the back of the fucking forum,
It's about as wild as finding out the role quests kind of lead to Ciela, who has the all-important Shadow Lord quest line in Shadowbringers.
Yeah, and you learn this in the fucking fishing quest line.
Yep.
I'm going to say something that's going to probably not be helpful for Neela, but if the fuckers knew about time travel, then why the hell are you using Elidibus as battery fuel?
Because he's the battery fuel.
How dare.
Maybe
again, that's why I gripe about that particular role, because there was other ways that we could have gotten something else to fuel it, for one thing, like I did in my little fix-it fic. There were other ways. The writers decided Elidibus needs to die, and we'll do it this way. Lock him up in jail until we can consume his essence. They decided that would happen, even though there were better ways. So, okay.
But the Charlayans knew how to time travel, and that's like, yeah, thank you, guys.
They literally knew how to time travel, and fucking we ate Elidibus instead.
Yep, it's pretty effed up.
Although from a non storyboard perspective, I at least was able to take this from it, that it fed into the notion that once one's duty is complete, it's honorable and fine to return to the star. He was just done.
I took that too.
Like, that's the narrative.
Actually-
the narrative is he's just kind of like, all right.
From a non-shipping perspective, absolutely, but that
Yeah.
entire scene was just such a slap in the
Oh,
face. I
for
think I
sure.
said this before, but
You
like,
did.
I have nothing left to live with. Excuse me, I'm right here.
Yeah, like, honey, I'm right here.
That's
Crying.
that sounds like hey, there's no snacks left. I'm literally right here.
Yeah.
I put the chat snippets in live chat if you want to show them, Fao, for
Yeah, absolutely.
both the ethereal balance thing and the time travel thing.
Yep.
from the
Consider it
fishing
done.
quest.
So this is full spoilers for the fishing role quests, but if you care to view them, this is the dialogue she's talking about. There we are.
Demi Bahamut in chat says Elidibus knew exactly when to send you, though. Neither you nor Charlian knew to go specifically
That's
to Opus,
true.
or even what that was. That's very
Yeah.
true. He could have told us how to calibrate the Charlian little fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely needed to go talk to him and set him free, and probably bring him with us.
Yeah, but what got me was
Imagine having a guide.
yeah.
Yeah.
It bothers me that not that they said, oh yeah, we've been aware of it for a while. I'm like, yeah, granted, you're Charlotte and you know fucking everything, and they're like, oh, but we couldn't grant you access to it, which means we have one and it works and we've used it.
Yeah.
What the
yeah,
fuck?
Yeah.
What have they fucked up in the timeline already?
Indeed.
The thing is that the Elegance already had one. You know, you recall the Hildebrand Heavensward quest?
Vaguely.
More details, but yes,
Mamet.
I've done them.
The Mamet, the time mage.
Oh yeah, GG.
Remember, it was a
Oh,
time age.
GG. It is a time age.
I
Yeah,
vaguely
you're right.
remember that was a thing that existed.
They also invented astrology, like in its modern incarnation, which has time elements, even if they've taken it out of the gameplay.
And I mean, to be fair, we've known that Charlene had time travel ever since the start of ARR because Louis Swa uses it during the
Fair.
whole thing with Bahamut. It's just the fact that it's institutionalized is what really bothered me.
Yeah, I hadn't actually read this line about the time travel thing, by the way, but it does. It actually is pissing me off as well.
I mean, yeah.
As much as I argued your case, I was strictly forbidden from granting you access.
Like,
In other words,
Yeah,
if you had
excuse
granted
me?
them access, they could have used it.
yeah.
Or no?
If it doesn't work, if it's just theoretical, it doesn't matter if you forbid them access. It's not going to work. But that's obviously it's functional.
Yeah.
So you can fall back upon this, Ishikawa, and use this as an excuse to say, oh, I see. Well, they used the time travel to mess up this timeline in here, so you gotta, in 7.0 or some other patch, you gotta go and fix that, because them fishers, you never know what they can do.
That's funny. Fishers
But
are
you know
They're
what-
pretty fishy.
You know what this
Oh,
also
Lord.
means is there is the potential now for time fugitives, which is
It
someone
was-
gets a hold of the time machine, goes back, starts messing something up, and we have to go back and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how about just the pandemonium crystal popping us back there?
Oh yeah.
I'm
No,
also
that's another
still-
thing. That's another thing
guide.
that really bothered me in Charlian is everybody, literally everybody, is like, "Oh, you can time travel. That's cool. Hey, can you go back and get me some rocks?" Or, "Hey,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
go
yeah.
murder something for me?"
I mean, you're the only one,
Oh
or
my
whatever.
gosh.
Yeah.
Until the fishing quest.
Be like, it reminds me of some of the sci-fi stories I've read where you go back and do like I remember this one and I don't remember what it was called now, but it was like you would do these dinosaur tours and it was like you cannot leave the path, don't even step off. And one person left off, stepped on some grass, changed everything. They came back and the future was like some hellscape.
So yes,
That's what I'm
it was-
expecting to happen with these
So-
It
quests.
was that
Like-
was Ray Bradbury's "A Sound of Thunder."
That's right. Yes, I read a
and
lot
that
of Ray
was
Bradbury in high school.
the butterfly that the person stepped on, and
Uh-huh.
they like had free and democratic
Butterfly.
elections,
The
and when they got
butterfly
back,
effect.
it was a democrat, like a totalitarian state instead,
Yup.
because they stepped on the butterfly and then
have-
they shot him.
Okay, I have to wonder if Charlene has the equivalent of like a Star Trek style prime directive, like temporal prime directive, like
Probably.
Ah.
that you cannot do XYZ while you're in the past. You
It's
have to
very
do
likely.
things.
So
Because otherwise,
yes,
someone might go undo the War of the Magi, which means Charlene no longer exists, for example.
yeah, and I would assume that they would have very strict controls on something like that. But the fact that it exists and it's not only semi-common knowledge to the senior members of the forum, but they're just telling everybody, like a random gleaner that they don't even really know,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Yeah, we've had this for a while, but we couldn't grant you access to it."
I actually wonder if going perhaps is taking a step into the next zone, if the Elpis flower that we find in Labyrinthos is something they went to Elpis back in time and took it because Celebus told us that there's that Neria ruin has survived of Elpis.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And Tarkia brings up a good point. Has anyone dived into the Japanese version of the Fish Request to see if this is something that's just in the English version?
I have not. I'm not that person.
Unfortunately, I don't speak Japanese.
But that would be a good ask.
Yes,
we have any
If
contacts?
anyone had the version, I could ask my Japanese fluent.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that, because I really, really want to know if this is a localization thing or if it's something that's actually canon across all regions.
The English does tend to embellish certain things, but they usually don't embellish plot. Embellish plot points. Usually, it's like little translation things, or like when they fucked up and you translated Seinen as boy.
We were able to find out who or what Shiva's, or rather the Eden E8S.
Yes.
E8 was from just kind of looking at the German translation. We couldn't get that on the English and Japanese side because none of them made sense. But on the German side, there was a word that was synonymous with ice or stasis.
The refulgence choice was a kind of a double, right? Because light, and then ice does that.
Yeah, so we guessed it far ahead of time before anyone could really say, "Oh yeah, that's definitely ice. That's definitely Shiva."
But for it to be both, eh?
So
both the Heidelin avatar and the Shiva avatar. That
remember
was
remember when I was talking about time travel last week?
Yeah.
Go on.
I hate it. I hate it.
Hit me. Hit us.
So, the reason I hate time travel is because it's a trope in video games that tends to work well if you know how to do it, but it doesn't work well if you continue to do it. Because you can tie up one single plot line or two single plot lines to a point in time and go, okay, well, this happened with this happened with this, these people were affected with this, and that's it. But the further you go, so let's say you go into the next expansion, the next game, and continue to write time travel, it gets harder and harder and harder to close off that time loop. Because then you have to retcon certain things, and you have to look at different people like, oh, well, this person was conceived due to this person then timeline, which was then conceived due to this point in the plot line where these timelines converged. And it becomes one big mess that is oddly like Kingdom Hearts. And a few other games that I know too. And that's why time travel to me, and especially if they start doing this, because Elpis was nice and everything, but if they continue to add on to Elpis, again, it's going to be like all the other games that I know that decide to dive into time travel more deep than, let's say, if we're going forward with just us being an adventurer and kind of forging our own path. So going backwards, too far backwards, would not sit well with me instead of going forwards in time and us kind of creating a story on our own. And so discovering who we are, who we were, I think it would be best left to kind of like a side story. Even though I know people would love to know who Azim was, I know you guys would, but that time loop, whether it be closed or open, remains a very sensitive point and something that could be problematic in the future.
Hey, we got any Portal 2 fans in here? The Azim really do be like, if a future you tries to warn you about this test, don't listen.
Yes, and I kind of agree with you, Ayumi, in that I think that Endwalker, while it did answer some things, it messed up a lot of stuff, especially with Elpis.
Because you go into, we were given all these answers in Shadowbringers, okay? A lot of those answers, a lot of those questions in Shadowbringers were answered, and we kind of looked back at the previous expansions going, okay, yeah, that made sense. This is why it tied into this expansion, and all these people. We go into Endwalker, and a lot of those questions, a lot of those answers were brought into question. We now have to question the answer before that question, the answer before that question. And so that's what's worrying me with time travel, is because we're already beginning to kind of bring into question, did this really happen, or are they kind of retconning this answer in, and we're just simply have to sit here and say, oh well, I guess that it works like that now.
If I may, I don't really think they I mean, retconning, for example, a Realm Reborn, I would understand, but retconning Shadowbringers,
They already tried to.
nope.
It doesn't fit
I'm
very
not-
well either as a result.
I'm not really sure if I would call that a retcon.
Can you
are
give us an
Tug?
example?
Yeah.
The tug. Oh, you might feel a tug if you tried to create something as big as Zodiark. It's funny because Mr. Truth said
I
he
don't.
was fucking
I
tempered.
don't. I don't trust the Loperids.
I
That's
don't
the only
trust the
explanation I can
Loperids
come up with. I
either.
think they're idiots, but I think the writers also fucked up. So yeah, no. As far as time travel, I do have a few things to say as well. I think it can be done well, but it really ought to be done in a closed story. Any kind of story, again, like you were saying with Kingdom Hearts or like an MMO, where you want to continue the story, it can get real awkward real fast. It makes things overly complicated, too hard to miss things. So I already didn't like the 8th Emerald Calamity coming back timeline just because I'm cranky about time travel. Adding more, the kind of time travel where it's like, well, you had to travel to the past and do these things, or else the future would not be what it is now. I'm like, okay, that breaks me out of the narrative, because for me, like, if I'm traveled back in time and I'm trying to change nothing, I need to be afraid that any misstep I do, any mistake I make is going to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
Knowing that having the writers saying, no, you did this, it's fine, kind of makes it feel like, well, it's just okay, I guess.
Yeah, it reminds me, and I posted this in the Discord, that scene in Star Trek 4 where they're just like, here's the formula to this super advanced technology. And they're like, you realize if we're doing this, we're changing history. And they're like, why? How do we know we didn't invent it? And they're like, oh yeah, here you go. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I will say they did do really well in the Elpis portion, because I remember sitting there, we're talking, we're telling them everything that happens, and I'm like, oh my god, this is going to change everything. I thought we weren't supposed to change anything. Oh my god, what's going to happen? And then when the memory thing came out, I was like, okay, that was well played, that was well done, and very fitting.
It was
But at the same time, there's a part of me that it's like, if we're constantly, imagine, for example, that but by each leap into the rift and into the time space stuff, we're creating another divergent timeline. It would mean that perhaps there's another timeline in which we don't return from Elpis, or we don't get to Elpis. So what, for example, may have happened if the Warrior of Light never actually made to Elpis, which could be, the scenario of the 8th Emperor Calamity. That since we know that in that timeline we're, well,
Dead.
and there's no Warrior of Light to prevent the stuff. What would have happened then in Elpis and the Ancients?
See, and that's another thing that just irritates the hell out of me. Just, we're creating all these timelines, we're creating all these forks. Now we have to kind of write down on a little sheet of paper, okay, this happened with this happened with this, we're in this timeline now, but the writers are making it this timeline here, so what's happening, period.
To be fair, I don't I don't really worry that much. My personal opinion is that if you're going to make a game about time travel, make it a game about time travel. But I don't mind if it's handled well in a game that's not really about time travel.
So the
if
thing
it's
with time
handled,
travel,
if it's handled well, of course.
But
This being an MMO, I think it's kind of a deliberate choice of leaving possible doors open. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's that how to explain it. It's like a door that it's there that doesn't have to be explored. That of course we're curious because we're lore divers, but it doesn't have to be explored if they don't want to. But if they feel like, hey, this could be something interesting to explore, like, I don't know, I'm personally, as an artist, I like to explore things that possibilities, they could. I mean, and if that's the case, they could just take that that thread and run with it. So I'm not really that concerned about time travel. I think they're free to go back to it if they want. I will judge once I see what they do with said time travel if it happens. For now, I think it was not really. I mean, I may have my this perhaps doesn't really make that much sense to me, but that's just minor details perhaps. Overall the LP's arc makes sense to me, so in that sense I'm just fine. I will judge once I see if they do.
I wanted to
Yeah,
add
for
something
me, like
after Arden.
the time travel doesn't bother me as much as it does some here, but that's because coming from Final Fantasy XI, I experienced an expansion that is literally going 50 years into the past to change things.
So,
Go ahead, Cobra.
Yeah, go ahead, Cope.
Oh, what? I'm
You were
replying to
talking.
chat right now.
Okay, well in that case I'll go. About this timey-wimey stuff, like one of the things that irks me a little bit, and again I really enjoyed the zone and the story, but we've been, as the 5% of the community or less that goes deep into paying attention to like lore threads and inconsistencies and retcons, we notice stuff, and it seems like they've decided to make like a select group of ancients kind of just know what's going on. One of the good examples, the most recent example, is the Pandemonium quest, the very first quest when you bonk heads with Themis. He says that his very good friend decided not to come along and said that in his absence, a falling star would show up. So it's like Azam knows the time loop, and that if he doesn't actually attend to matters, his distant future self will. Like, what's going on here with this story?
They actually have, if you go to the lobby at the very end of Pandemonium after the quests are done, and you go talk to Themis again, he mentions that he sent a message to their friend,
Right.
and that that individual has complete faith in us.
Yes.
And I'm just like, how do you know? How do you know? It's driving me mad.
Because he's been to the
That's
future.
why I'm just. That's
They've
why
run
my headcanon right
Yeah.
now is that the shoe bill is fucking Azam's
Yeah, it's just
familiar
Azam's
spying on the
familiar,
future.
the real one.
Or something. Like, something's going on. And
that,
also,
that explains the absence of thoughts.
Yeah.
just to touch on the time stuff myself, I'm kind of of two minds of it. I certainly acknowledge and appreciate Ayumi's perspective on this, and have seen time stories that have been done very poorly in many different contexts and fictional settings. But on the other side of that, like, I am totally into like what they did with Elpis, generally speaking, and was the expansion was much more improved by its presence. If they wanted to do more stuff with that, and more excuses to go to the ancient world, I'd be all for it, even if it meant having to fudge things a bit. And going off of that, like, as well, I have to wonder if that hole in time that enabled us to go to Propulon and Elpis to begin with isn't still there, and if Azem were to find out, oh, hey, everybody's mentioning I have a familiar, and I don't know why that, like, they obviously know something is up from based on, like, Pandemonium, so maybe they hear all this talk about their familiar in Elpis, and they want to go check out and see what's going on, and they see there's an Azem-shaped hole in time, and they decide to go through it, and then suddenly they're in the ocular. Like, what could happen if they decided to follow up on something like that, for example? The opposite of, like, Arzem fish out of water in the present time.
Mm-hmm.
They could do something in reverse like that too if they really wanted to. Like, there's lots of different options. There's lots of different options for what they could do with what they've established here that aren't necessarily bad or inconsistent, but they have to be very careful about it.
Very, very minor note, doesn't really matter, but just so you know, Themis is pronounced Themis, or alternately Elidibus.
Yes,
Right.
it's Elidibus.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not Themis. It's Themis. It's because it's Greek. Greek weirds are weird.
No worries.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm
words
still
are
getting
weird.
used to. I'm still getting
Yeah,
used
yeah.
to
Is he
Eric's
is he
name
the
too.
Themis of the game?
Almost. Yeah.
So Arden has notified us she'll have to go a bit early, so I wanted to share one more thing before that.
Yeah, so just to keep in mind, since we are criticizing Endwalker quite a bit, is a lot of what seems like it could be dropped threads or retcons at the moment could be threads that have intentionally been left for the coming story.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be too terribly harsh.
Yeah, we still like the expansion, I think, as a whole, like fundamentally, and also that like a lot of this stuff will probably come up in future expansions.
Don't be mad and quit the game. They tend to glue things together later.
Right.
Time travel is the biggest issue I have with the game. Everything else was wonderful. I hate time travel. That is all.
But
Ayumi,
yeah, I have to go get spanked by Vampire Daddy, so
get it.
I will catch you guys later.
go get it.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Have fun with Vampire Titty.
So I do have one thing to say on the topic of time travel. Meowth is correct. Time travel to do and execute well requires a lot of foresight and planning. The best example I can think of is Babylon 5, where in season 1 they have an episode where, you know, they have this random time travel thing happen, and then 3 seasons later it comes back and you see the other side of it. And that is a closed loop where, you know, this always happened, it will always happen again. What happened in the past affects the future, what happens in the future affects the past. And that's fine. But here we have more of a fracturing timeline, creating alternate and divergent timelines through time travel, which is fine too. It's a more messy and not as coherent a form of time travel. And I know, Ayumi, you hate time travel, but I very much foresee us having to deal with these fractured timelines coming in the future.
And like, I know it's like an excuse to kind of say, oh, well, this is open-ended plot points. This is something we can draw back upon. It's a lot easier to say that when you can say, oh, well, the Crystal Tower is a source of power for this time travel type thing. And, oh, this event happened here, and so this is Hubris, this is what happened here. Well, now you have multiple timelines where you have to, if you want to write a different storyline, yeah, you can write it from this timeline, but you have to write it saying, oh, well, if this didn't happen, here's this timeline, or this didn't happen in this timeline, so it has to be written in this timeline. And then you have to keep branching off.
Yeah.
Like, for example, sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say, in no way am I saying that I don't love Endwalker. I absolutely adored Endwalker. It was a great expansion. I had a great time with it. I'm just, after chewing on it a little bit, there's a lot of things that aren't lining up for me, and I just think that we're going to have to deal with that at some point.
But in terms of time travel, you'll forgive me because I know there's more emblematic titles like Chrono Trigger and the like.
Mm-hmm.
But my reference in terms of familiarity is Final Fantasy 13-2. But the thing with 13-2 is that it's deliberately made to create paradoxes in time, and you have to solve them. So it's kind of, I look at that like for reference as of the laws of time travel, but I have to remind myself, okay, this Final Fantasy 14 time travel is meant to be a closed loop, more or less, and 13.2 is actually meant to make a mess of the timeline deliberately. So, I mean, Neela has watched that run, so he may know about what I'm trying to explain rather poorly.
Yeah, I disagree that it's a closed loop, but I
don't know how to say it. I mean, it's like not a closed loop. The way I imagine the timeline at this point is fuck. Have you played
roller coaster?
That too.
Sorry.
But have you played, for example? I haven't played, but I watched Detroit Become Human.
Yes.
So you know the branching possibilities that if you do or if you choose this dialogue or this action, it turns into a different outcome.
Yes.
So that's pretty much how I imagine 13's timeline right now in this branching state. That if you, for example, make two different choices that are different, they may converge into the same branch, except with minor differences. But any other combination may turn into a complete different outcome. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
You are. I think what Endwalker does with time travel is more or less the idea that you can interact with the past but not change the outcome ultimately. It seems like everything is fated to happen. Like, and this is a little bit like Chrono Trigger, which you mentioned, where, say you go back to Zeal, that nation fell 12,000 years BC, no matter what. We're just there to witness it, and in our interactions it happens, but it might have happened anyway, or maybe it was always us. So, like, there's
So,
that.
Val,
And then,
I have
just really
now
quick,
that
Meowth, really quick.
yes, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm almost finished with the point. I don't have a strong memory of Chrono Cross, the PlayStation 1 sequel to Trigger, but one of the major plot points is actually fighting the heroes from Chrono Trigger because they messed something up. Now, that's something I don't recall. It's been too long and I had only played it once, but fighting Chrono, Luca, and Marl in a PS1 3D render was an interesting experience. So that occurs as a side plot in this sort of futurescape, almost time travel-y laboratory that you go to as part of Chrono Cross. So, I don't know which way to take it.
So if everything is fate, which is another possibility, if everything is fate, we've still got the eighth Amber Calamity, eighth Amber Calamity there, allegedly a stray timeline different from ours. If it's fate and everything's a closed loop, does that mean that in the future that timeline is going to converge with ours?
It could be. It could also be that this is just a multiverse where there's one sacred timeline and all multiverses are fated and nothing really changes. It's like the easy way out, the coward's way out is, no, that world's still over there. It's fine. It's just doing its thing. And there's going to be another one over here and there's going to be a quantum nonsense over that way. And
I've spent a lot of time trying to think of ways, like for my fanfic, to bring the Eighth Unbowl Calamity timeline into a roller coaster. What we might call a closed loop. It's not closed; it goes right beside itself. But you know what I mean.
Yep.
And I haven't found a good way to do so, except like making the Warrior of Light fail in their quest and the world get basically destroyed.
Sure.
I don't see an easy way, and I've put a lot of thought into it to do that. I really personally, the way I see these sorts of things is every single decision you make, every single word you choose creates a new branching reality. So the branching reality thing doesn't bother me.
That's the quantum
What bothers
thing,
me is the sacredness of this timeline that cannot be changed. And I'm like, literally, if I'd said a different dialogue option to Hermes, it could have changed everything in theory. Obviously, the game doesn't allow
the game doesn't allow it. Yeah.
In a more realistic situation,
Yes.
that could change everything. He could think twice about that word or something, and change everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would have already changed stuff if he hadn't pulled Kairos.
Yeah, Kairos was their get out of jail free card.
I think whipping Kairos out was something he always would have done, just because of his frustration with Emmett Selk trying to just bull his way through and be like, "You're coming with us now," and he's like, "Bro, can I just listen to the report?"
Yeah, exactly. It would have been later right? But that probably would have happened anyway, with or without our help.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the things in Elpis would have gone off without our presence or with, say, Asm's presence there. However, everything that Venanu left knowing, she wouldn't have known. So I think that would have changed everything. I think it breaks the timeline.
Meaning the timeline's contingent on our return to the past.
Exactly. I think it breaks it.
Making it a loop. Gotcha.
Tell how enthused we were to talk about Labyrinthos.
I liked Ehrenfeld a lot.
Aaron, him and the second bit with Moon Burrito's parents and Urian.
Yes.
That was it.
Those
were the highlights. Those were the highlights of Labyrinthos. The rest of it was kind of forgettable.
I didn't like the music. I didn't like that we. Sorry, Neela, go ahead.
Moonbreeda's parents and Urian J were a wonderful, wonderful break from the bunnies. I did not like the bunnies.
Watching a three-way interrupting bus. Go, Bron.
Yeah, I did not like the music. I didn't like that we only got access to a quarter of the zone. I didn't like the side quests.
You know what I didn't. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The fact that I was flying around and I noticed an ethereal wheel, like the same sort of setup of elements that was imprisoning Zodiark around the center. And I was like, she's trapped here. And then they were like, actually, no. And I was like, then why put the ethereal wheel there? I'm confused and annoyed.
Yeah.
I think
I felt very
is
clever,
there-
and then they were like, that means nothing. And I was like, great.
No, I think it's no. I think it's important because it's mentioned earlier that Labyrinthos relies in some. They can
They have
alterate
to balance everything, yes.
They can alterate the etheric levels to imitate climates and the like. So
Exactly like
makes sense.
Elpis. That makes sense.
Exactly,
But
yes.
the fact that they lined them up around the place we would go to find Heidelin, much like how we had that exact setup above Zodiark, they're not using those for that on the moon. It was a totally different purpose, but they set it up the same.
Yeah.
I was annoyed.
Yeah.
Multiple applications for the same technology. Eh?
I mean, I thought, hey, I'm very clever. I noticed a detail. And they were like, actually, it was just random.
Yeah. They got it to just to take us down a notch.
Thanks.
I think what I mentioned though that the thing with I appreciate the scene for what it is. I mean, Urianger and Mumbrida's parents. I appreciate for what it is because it's actually a damn well closer to poor Urianger, who has been mulling over Mumbrida for ever since Realm Reborn. But at the same time, I felt when I was watching it, I felt like this is probably meant to mean something else, and this is just my impression. I could be wrong, but I think the story that Vilsun tells about how Urianger was much a lonely kid that the others didn't really like much or didn't bother to understand because he was so
Socially
reserved.
awkward.
It made me think of Hades and Asm and Hythlodeus.
Oh yeah, that was the exact vibe I got from it too.
Yeah, so I'm not crazy. Thank you.
No, I'm pretty sure they set that up very intentionally. They did actually. One of the things that I really, 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 really liked about this expansion was that they went out of their way to set up these parallel situations where things might be linked or they might not be linked, but you would see this something and you would see it again in a different context, and it's like, this is just a thing. Yep. Things like Heidelin saving up a bunch of ether, Tataru saving up a nest egg.
Yep.
Things like, Kairos erasing the memories, but then they release in the live stream. And then that applying to Hermes, as Daniel, applying to the Hades and Hythlodeus after we call them back. And also coming up with Scholark Monteshan, or however you pronounce his name. Like things like this where they... And if I think about it long enough, I'll come up with more, but they did it a bunch, and it made that was one thing they did that made the narrative really solid, really well constructed.
The same thing with, for example, I think La Habrea and Erectonius is basically Fortunal and the twins.
Oh, you mean appearance-wise?
Partially. No. She means thematically.
Yeah, well, different situation, but similar lack of good communication.
Yeah.
Can't wait to set that straight.
Parental, yeah, exactly. About Urianger, I like that they narrowed in on his secrecy. Wasn't like something that he didn't take seriously, or like, they've mentioned it before, but they really brought home this time that like he really doesn't want to lie to us anymore, and it was kind of hard to carry that weight, like the weight of secrecy and constantly being the guy who's like fated to do that for the best interest of the star. It's like kind of a bummer, dude.
I have a theory about surrounding Urianger, and you guys are going to think me mad for this, but I think he is one of the lost Asians that we have yet to meet.
Dudalafon, probably.
Dudalafon.
I've pointed out in the past.
Hold on. Just because we know that all of the Asians carry those yellow-ish eyes, but that is not the reason. Mm-hmm. The reason is when we go to Heidelin and face her, she calls out Urianger about truths unutterable.
Yes.
And no one thinks to call him out on that later. No one asks him about it. No one says, hey, what did she mean by that? And meaning Heidelin knows something that she never really told us about, but only Urianger knows about. And
sorry.
And when we go up to the moon and everything and go through that whole cutscene and everything, he only half tells us what he's all about, but he doesn't tell us what he's doing. So he's like, I promise I won't lie to you guys anymore, or whatever.
JK lol.
See, for me, I read that truths unutterable as he keeps secrets.
That's what I thought. I thought he keeps lying.
I can see what you're
hiding.
saying too. I actually had tied Urianger long ago to Nabrialis, believe it or not. Look at the little sideburns, the propensity for like scholarliness, because Nabrialis is like a total fucking magic nerd.
And
He learns all this
it's
fancy
interesting
magic.
that they were the two
they
that
both
were,
have this connection through Mumbrita.
and they were both the one of the two that weren't named when Emet-Selch went through. So yes, I do believe that he is one of the Sundered Asians. He just doesn't want to tell us or doesn't remember about it, and it's
I mean,
just
it could
been
make
growing on
sense
me.
it could make sense in the terms that he actually, his one of his first actions at the end of Unreborn was actually get close to Elidibus, and I don't know if he got his trust entirely, but
It's
Elidibus
so
did actually
suspect.
Elidibus bother himself to tell him things. So.
You know, that's true. Both Nabrialis and Urianger have little private scenes chatting with Elidibus too.
That and Elidibus approaches him as Archon and doesn't really treat him as anything less than them. Like, he literally is just talking to them casually.
That aspect of
Interesting.
Elidibus
I
seems
would
to be
have
kind of in
to-
his nature, to be honest.
Yeah, well, fair. But I would have to. Well, that this is basically me trying to tie the Espers from the Tactics series and 12. The Evil is Espers and the characters. In this case, I would have to check for parallels between Urianger perhaps and Dice Dark Beowulf, which is the in Tactics is Ramsa's older brother, who transforms into a Dramelech, who is the opposite of the Dalaphon. So it would be interesting. I take all that long road because after all, Elidibus is named after Zodiac Summoner in Final Fantasy Tactics. So.
Yes, that's true.
So if we want to go away from Labyrinthus and go into maybe Thavner.
Go ahead.
I was asking you not to point your fingers at me.
No, it's fine.
I
That sounds like a good place to go. What do we think about the transition into Thavner and the best comedy routine of the whole damn game?
Oh my god.
I laughed out loud
Stanny.
in real life
I mean,
at the ether sickness.
Oh my god, yes.
I swear, I've never had I never had a hangover because I don't drink alcohol. The closest thing I got to a hangover was the COVID shot, the second one. But seeing Urianger in the I should stop at the fifth cup and Tancred in that position and Urianger in the fetal position, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
And the best part was Hades' narration going like, could you please not interrupt my narration with your shit? Like.
Yeah, super migraine plus hypernausea in broad daylight in the sweltering heat. And you can get a nice little drink
It was
over at
raining
the...
for me. It was more amusing.
Oh, was
it
it?
actually settled the mood.
And then the
funny.
kicker is Justinian is terrible at money.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
Our first jaunt into Thavner was just hysterical. I learned that I suck at sales. People get mugged or in the back alleys of Thavner.
Yep.
It's a place.
Yeah, I didn't sell a single thing.
No.
And then it turns out that the place is run by a dragon.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you saw that guy getting mugged around the corner from the Aetheryte. That was hilarious.
I don't
He's
think
still
I noticed
there.
that one.
He's
getting
still
mugged.
there too. It's just it's 3 NPCs. One of them is like literally like trying to rip a bag out of another guy's hand, and this other woman
in this town, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a woman cheering him on, like, yeah, take a shit. Fuck that guy.
Jeez.
Amazing.
Also, how about
really
curing
sets the
ether
tone for
sickness
the desperation.
with like an over-the-counter drink? It just works. Why isn't that on the
we gotta bring
shelves
this back
everywhere?
to Eorzea.
Yeah, like come on, it should be a staple.
It's probably because it takes exotic fruits
Maybe,
and stuff. That would be my guess.
but given the
just,
ether load,
I can't afford to import medicine from Thavner. Are you kidding me? I mean, it would be nice to have it though.
yeah.
This is where my headcanon as the Warrior of Light using their vast teleportation reserves to like be a courier would come in.
I have to say that Thavner as a whole was far more solid. We've got the split initial starting areas in Heavensward. We if you recall, we got the split.
In all the things so far.
The Corthas Western Highlands was split. Then we got split to the Sea of Clouds. Stormblood was split between the fringes, the fringes and the peaks, and we would get later. Shadowbringers we got Calusia and Amarang that were split, and here we got Labyrinthos and Thavner.
So you're saying you think this was the best split?
But Thavner was way more hype and well handled than Labyrinthos, the way I say it, because Thavner got the Tower Shot, which is an important moment in the first part of Endwalker, and then gets the final days.
Yeah.
I think that the split was very, I don't know if it was intentional, but it provided two very different moods. The first one was like tense, we're not sure what's going on. I mean, I say first one, Charlian. They kind of lined that one up to be first, but you can do them in either order. The Charlian one was kind of like tense, don't know what's going on. We get down, there's something weird's going on. We all know it's mommy. It's mommy. And then depending on the characters you like, that could be really exciting. It wasn't personally for me. I enjoyed Thavner a lot more because, wow, that Fandaniel backstory, holy cow.
Hermes.
I screamed when his voice doubled.
Cobran, did
I was like, what the fuck? And then he said, ammo, not usurpers. I went, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, Ishikawa's elaborate fanfiction continues apace.
Yeah.
It's not fanfiction. She paid to do this.
No, I know,
That's
but
the
it's
dream.
still like still had
absolutely.
that it still had that hint of like, oh yeah, this is ascended fanfic.
She likes to carry threads forward instead of making up a random new stuff, which I personally appreciate a lot.
I can appreciate that too, definitely. I like what she did with Amon and with Hermes.
I mean, the voice doubling is not the first time we've seen that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I immediately recognized it as the same as Elidibus's thing, which I paid a lot of attention to that voice doubling too because it was really nice. So as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my god, we have a real voice. Oh my god, we're getting a backstory.
I also like that they gave Zonde a bit of like a touch there as well, and that also they gave us Emmett in a mask, which I was like, ooh.
So one thing that overall I enjoyed Thavner is okay. One thing I didn't like though was the fact that the split zone was underneath the upper zone, and that there were tons of invisible walls, even though there was a clear way to drop down to the land below. That really frustrated me.
Same. Jump and go to 1. Why not?
Yeah, they should have made that a higher peak.
With Calusia, you didn't have that. Well, I could just jump up there.
Right. Labyrinthos had the same problem with that. I don't know why they feel the need hop down the waterfall.
Separate zones like that. If I was making it, I would make it so you could go everywhere. I'd make it a headache. I'd make it difficult. But if you really want to, you can go and explore it all right off the bat. Like the forcible wall thing, just it's a little frustrating to me. It feels unnecessary.
You know the thing that frustrates me about split zones every damn time, every expansion. Using my ether compass and telling there's an ether current like 20 in the north, and I go there and it's like a fucking wall.
That is annoying.
They could. I mean, this is just a zone design thing. They haven't chosen to do this so far, but you could just make it like there's an actual choke point with a gate that's actually shut somewhere. But instead, it's always like you can't go down the cliff.
That's what they did with the Ruby Sea and Azim Step, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, to the dome.
And the Forelands in Heavensward, they had that gate that led.
Yeah, it was Yangsha and the Azium Steppe. It was just a shut door.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had a few shut doors like that.
Yeah, but yeah. As for Thavner, I actually enjoyed. The first part was interesting for the anti-tampering scales. The wording scales.
Mm-hmm.
The Tower of Sod,
Did-
Van Daniel's backstory, and then the second part was likely gripping because final days.
Did anyone else like honestly think that the when you come upon the alchemists and they're all
Thank
just
you.
laying there and you can't even wake them up?
Oh,
Did anyone
God.
else be like, "Oh my god, this is terrible. This is so
Yeah.
bad," and then it's just like they're just really exhausted. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
so
not
it's-
dead.
I was
They're actually
genuinely freaked
crackheads.
out."
They're
I
actually
was
crackheads.
like, Black Rose.
They were like, "It's just a prank, bro."
Yeah, they're trying to hit us with the fake drama, and it turns into comedy.
and
Yeah.
then they ganged up on Astinian, and
Yeah.
that was.
Yep. You smell like dragon.
Yeah.
I
So-
enjoyed them like mobbing him. That was hilarious.
It was really funny.
I was of Thavner. There's something else that I really enjoyed, and it's like the second part during the final days, the moment that before we go to try to save Mevon, and there's the villagers of Pakistan reunited. They're freaking out, and Matsia and the others start reciting their mantra. And they're basically praying, but it's like they present to us the positive side of pray of what a prayer is. I mean, I was like, oh, because all this time they're kind of associated prayer with primals, and that meant trouble, of course. But then they turned this thing during the final days as in the form of this mantra into a source of hope that actually fights off the effect of the negative dynamism.
It
So
focuses the
I-
mind in the same way that creation magics do, but in a less destructive form. It was good.
Yeah, I really like that because it was like, so it's finally. I mean, we've seen the negative part of religion, which is fanaticism, but this is the positive one, which is giving people something to hold on to when everything seems lost. I really appreciate that too. Like, I'm not a religious person, but I like having both sides of the spectrum in that.
Yeah, everything like that has a healthy and a pathological side that you could take. While we're on Thavner and backtracking to Tower of Zot, I want to talk about Grahatia a little bit and his various scenes throughout the game. I really enjoyed. So when I went into that dungeon, I took the twins and Astinian, and then Graha uses mass levitate, and I'm like, my boy doesn't have the tower, but he's still got it. He casts this spell, and it's strong enough that he passes out from it, but everyone lands safely at the bottom. I was of two minds of this. Like, firstly, I'm not necessarily buying that that's in his kit, but we just saw it, so I guess I can't complain. And then the second is, wait, the whole tower was an illusion, in a way? It just
It
disappears.
was a magical construct in the same way
yeah.
that when you defeat a primal, it just dissolves into nothing.
Yeah, it was part of a
Exactly.
primal, so it dissolved.
It was an
into
extension of anima.
It
and
was,
Garrus.
but at that moment, we didn't have the full.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
full
exactly.
Scope.
No, it was wild. Well, I wasn't actually surprised by that because I caught it back in 5.4 when the scout was like, I literally blinked and it showed up while my eyes were
Yeah,
closed.
that's a good point. That's
So
a
I
fair
knew it
point.
had to. It made sense for it to disappear as fast. But yeah, I wasn't sure. I was actually really wondering because you could cast creation magics, create a thing, and have it
Sure.
remain there. In theory,
It kind of calls back a
that's not
little
what
bit
happened.
to the perhaps non-canon interpretation I took of the Dying Gasp ending when the illusions fade after you defeat Hades.
Oh.
And you just see the skyscrapers torn to bits like it was a bomb in a city. You know, so
Yeah, it's like
the
Fallout.
magical construct that was layered on top of the
Yeah, I
physical
think-
remains disappeared.
I think that was his since we were still in the illusory Amarant,
Right.
as far as I can tell. There, it was just like
Like
it
a
may
final
even have been,
touch.
subconscious, but yeah,
Yeah.
a final which was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's romantic
Well,
itself.
It's not so much
Well,
canon; it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the way I see it is that we were kind of at the top of sorts, because I think that was above the sea. Otherwise, well, I mean, I don't really know, because if they had
no.
to
We
swim up
we
the
fought in the illusion of Amarant. We were not outside that at that point.
Okay.
If you go back and look, you'll see we're still literally inside the illusory city.
Hmm.
I have a
Okay.
question in
Real
chat
quick,
from
yeah, that's
Demi
what I was gonna
Bahamut.
bring.
When the other towers disappeared, did the people trapped in them die from the fall because they didn't have pocket
We
Grahatia?
spoke.
This was mentioned
There
in a
was a
side
bit in MS2,
conversation.
yeah.
Go ahead and take it, Neela.
Oh, okay. If you got it, go for it.
No, go ahead and take it.
Okay. There was mentioned, and I hadn't remembered it was side conversation, that we spoke with the heads of state of the others, and we're like, look, when the towers fall, if this happens, we're going to Garlemald. We're going to try and make the towers fall. So they were like, okay, we'll do the preparations. I'm assuming. I was imagining big circus nets at the time. Like that's literally what I envisioned. I was like, oh my god, they're going to set up circus nets.
I think if I recall, the mention the Tower of Sot disappearing in that violent manner is because Estinian burst the core, and when Anima itself was defeated, the other towers simply disappeared, and the reports is that the prisoners inside were simply appeared in the ground.
Oh, I didn't hear
without
that at
harm.
all.
I actually recall from the second playthrough, so.
That's the one that I was remembering, but I do remember both actually. Yeah, there was a little bit
But-
aside that said, just kidding, they were safe. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just take that one in stride. Another one of these.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like, oh, everything
Everyone was
is perfect and
fine.
wonderful, and nothing goes wrong. That's great. That's realistic.
Yeah, until the map starts rotting, and it's like.
What did you all think when they revealed there was a limb in the tower's core? I couldn't figure out who it was
was
at the
like,
time, but I was
what?
like, this is alarming.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
was like,
oh,
what?
who is that?
And then, because I took Yashtola to the Tower of Babel, she mentions in Trust that, as I suspected, each of the towers has a part of its corpse, and I was like, what?
That's
What?
pretty spooky, guys.
And I actually wonder if Daniel was troll enough to go to each of these places in the tower, sort of plant each limb and everything, the thing sprouts. And I'm like,
I don't know if that's how. But yeah, that's more or less what he did. I mean, he just. Hey, Anima, would you like to extend your reach? I know how to do it.
You know, on that Anima thing, I mean, how about, just accepting the notion that a primal that we can four-man is somehow able to sprout towers across the entire planet.
I wasn't very particularly happy about that, but it was a cool fight.
Although I
I'm
do have to
trying
give some appreciation
not
to our
make-
parties.
I'm trying to not make a gross joke,
Sure.
but because Demi Bahamut said Varys was a dick, but that's a raw fit. I was like, they split his corpse into things. What if his thing was part of what?
Oh boy.
Bonnie isn't even here for this.
Yeah, she's missing out.
We're gonna have someone please clip that so we can share it with her. This is so important.
And we need to replay it as a notification every episode.
I mean, it's like 7 pieces.
Yeah, so that's going to be our new follower notification right there.
Congratulations, you're the new follower. Ding.
Kappa says that's a big BB.
Oh my god.
Oh, jeez.
You brought this upon yourself.
Jeez.
And it's not fair because every time you keep laughing, you cut out. So
It's part of the humor.
Anyways, can we go now that we mentioned?
No. Not anyways. We're going to talk about this. I think they specified that it was a leg,
That one was, yes, the one that we saw. It was
Yes.
a man's leg in there.
which means the one in Lenosha was likely
Which leg?
The bang line.
Yeah, I kind of want to map them out now. Someone got a map of Eorzea? No reason.
Or a map of Varys' anatomy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Slush Prince says showing off his leggy. Well, hopefully, if the trial series is the 4 elemental fiends from 4, we're gonna get Ruby Conte,
Oh, I
and
can't wait.
we're gonna get lots of leggy there. So that'll be great.
You know, it's funny. I don't remember how old I was when I played Final Fantasy 2 in the US. It wasn't like when it came out because it was a hand-me-down console that we got for free from some friends of the family. But I remember having such a crush on Rubicon. I've just always been like this.
I mean, that's a
I mean,
streaker man right there.
And
Oh, yeah.
fair, and then there's
He's flaming
Barbariccia.
hot.
Boo.
Boo.
If I was
I like
into
it.
her, I'd be like, or if I was into ladies, I'd have been into her.
But how
I'm
about we move?
restraining myself from making a wind-based joke that nobody wants to hear.
I mean, go ahead.
I bet she really knows how to blow. I'm sorry.
F.
My
Hello, all
goodness.
insanity.
Was it flame? I will show you how.
Lewd lines indeed today. I'm getting lightheaded.
It's good. It means it's fun.
Can we move
We're
to
getting
Garden
doxxed.
mode?
Well, so I wanted to touch base with the team. I chatted in our admin chat. I'm just trying to make sure we're actually at time, and this has been a very fun session. We could be short and sweet today. We could go a little long, but we could absolutely go for 4 hours. So let's make a decision
Maybe not
here.
that last
Not
one.
4 hours.
Yeah. So
Does chat have
Garlemald's a
anything
whole
that they
zone.
specifically
Yeah.
wanted? I know we talked about something earlier, but I don't know if we ever ended up bringing it up. Is there
Yeah.
something people wanted in particular to discuss?
Okay, Aros has one
Fair.
question. Let's take it. Go for it. And it can be of any topic, any zone, doesn't matter. Alex, please feel free to watch the VOD. Whenever we end up ending, it'll be up. Just waiting for the question, and we will proceed.
I have a question. What does Bird of Elpis taste like?
Chicken.
Chicken.
Yes, this is correct.
slightly less crispy, but still fried.
It wouldn't be much of a utopia in existence without that kind of thing available.
So we're still waiting for Aros' question, but Little Ouroboros says, I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts on Xenos' avatar.
They said the avatar was important.
Yeah, and it never came up. I was really disappointed. I was like, whoa. I was like examining, like, wait, what are the hands? What's going on here? It looks so cool. It looks so different. And then it didn't really go anywhere, which, I mean, maybe I just missed it, but I was a little disappointed.
I think, and this could be me just having but I think the Xenos' avatar, the hands, the way they're placed, they imitate when in Thesis Hyperborea, Meteon covers her, sort of covers her face when saying, "There we will sing our song ever louder and ever clearer and whatever." And she makes us.
The face was very masculine to me. I was actually expecting a feminine avatar. I was like, it's his mom. But it was very masculine. I was like, I don't know what it is. I have no idea.
I don't know if
Oh.
it could have anything to do with Meteon because the position of the hands. I would have to check again because Meteon does a really.
Does anyone have a good picture of it we can put up?
I don't on hand, unfortunately.
One thing I will say is that they did mention that the avatars would be different based on your race in the game. And when I finally got, I didn't notice it until I got in Shroud at 80.
That's right.
And after that, I was like, oh, that's what they meant. Because it's based more on your character than what the actual avatar looks like when it's separate from your character.
Yes.
Interesting.
And
Can't wait for that.
And in Shroud, the eye pattern is. I was immediately drawn to that, like. Because I started leveling Reaper after MSQ, and I was like, that eye pattern when we're enshrouded sort of it feels familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I have Reaper at, gosh, I don't know, 83, and I took a close look at the avatar that I have, and it basically just looks like the villain level 80 NPC from the quest line. So not actually disappointed, but I didn't notice it looking like me at all. In any
It
respect.
takes on a few characteristics, but for like Vieira, Elzen, Mikote, it removes the ears, it removes the
There's-
tail.
It looks more like me
can-
when I'm
you
enshrouded.
There's a
can-
picture of the
you can
avatar.
use certain power, certain forbidden power to make it show, but
I still like the form
If
a
you look
lot.
in live chat, there's a picture.
I see it there. Yeah, okay, yeah.
What is that?
That's
The main thing that I noticed about the avatar form from looking at it with like certain techniques, let's say, is that you have the eyes that are very like explosive-y looking. Like the iris is kind of like radiating out in a way that's like different from both the ancient and the regular eyes. I thought that was a very interesting touch, but it's hard to see usually in game because there's that glow effect over the eyes.
Aros's question regarding the dream that we hear Hythlodaeus. I thought he was talking to us, but I've heard people saying he was talking to Hades.
into Hades.
I agree. I think
I think he
it
might
was
have been
Hades.
talking.
I would
I
have
thought-
to rewatch it.
I thought he was kind of talking to both of us, but mainly to Hades.
I think maybe talking at us, but with.
No.
Yeah.
I
Hades.
exclusively thought he was talking to Hades because by that point Labyrinthos was done, and we had already learned that Hades' soul had already been brought back
Yes.
to the
Right.
source.
Oh, also, at first when I heard the voice, I thought it was Hades, and then he kept talking. I was like, no,
Same.
this is talking to Hades.
That
it's
happened to
not.
me
It's
as well.
Hythlodaeus.
I had a visual.
Because the very
or
first
audio.
voice line, I was confused by the voice actor.
Yeah,
Then
same.
it was clear. It was 100% Hades. I'm confident of that. I remember that part.
Yeah, it's just that we don't get to hear Hades replying to Hythlodaeus.
That
we
was strange,
kind of
just bubbles.
infer what he's replying, because Hythlodaeus is like, "Yeah, it's been some time for you, maybe," and there's the bubbles, which is imply that Hades is answering, but we can only guess what he's telling Hythlodaeus by Hythlodaeus' own answers to.
Yeah. And Emmett's
And then
cranky
we got-
complaining.
And then we got to Ultima Thule, and it's when they both narrate together the introduction of Ultima.
So I have a bag of cats that I'm going to open up.
Okay.
So Zodiark was sundered by Heidelin, and presumably that means that all the souls inside him were as well.
Oh,
but
here we go.
see, yeah, we see Hythlodaeus use creation magic in Ultima Thule. So was he sundered or was he not? Because the implication was that he was, because he was part of Zodiark.
It's a good question.
That's what
I can see
think-
the argument that, oh, well, Zodiark was sundered along lines, but it says every soul was sundered. So I really feel like they were leaning and angling at that. So it does indeed the bag of cats. He may just like, it may be 99% Emmett Hades. At that point, he was no longer on the convocation,
Yeah.
donating the ether, and he was just like, I'm helping too, 1%.
Yeah. But see, like
That's all I can figure.
on its own, it's not that big a deal. But when you think about it, if Hythlodaeus was unsundered, then so were all the other souls inside Zodiark, which are now
I
in
mean,
the life
they
stream on the source.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
they
yeah.
manifest as ancients, not sundered souls.
Not even
they
as
manifest
shades.
as memories of who and what they were. They were all funky looking too. They were definitely just like not much left.
Yeah,
seems
inside
like-
inside they were shades, but at the end they are the two that you know. Seems like it's actually them, not some shade.
I'm not. The thing is, when I think I mentioned this the other day in the Discord server, which is a possibility because, for example, we got confirmation, at least verbal confirmation, that Heidelin did indeed sunder herself. But still, when we get to meet Heidelin, Venizing and high control,
She's not
and
missing any bits.
and she's still referred as Elizabeth calls her bearing the mantle of the Last of Us, which means
That was
an angel.
kind of
That's also her
Not
line as
great.
well.
So-
She says what does she say? As the last of my kind, she says.
Yes, basically. So the thing is it possible to sunder yourself but not sunder the souls? I mean, in a physical way, but not in a spiritual way.
Yeah.
And that's what Hydaelyn aimed for, and that's why the souls inside Zodiac remain unsundered. Because if that's the case, it would explain Hythlodaeus and the other souls manifesting.
Well,
as
it
ancient.
almost doesn't matter
But-
because Hythlodaeus is not that good with the whole creation thing anyway. He had to have us go tie up some butterflies so he could make us a set of
I
robes.
don't believe-
even
I
unsundered,
don't-
he wasn't going to do that much.
He had a bow.
I don't believe
Canonically
that.
presented to us.
Dude has a
That's
bow. I
canonically
don't-
presented to
That
us.
for a moment, because the bastard pulls the bastard sometimes out DPS Semetsalk.
I mean, yeah, you can have headcanons however you want, but everyone was limited in that everyone in that dungeon was limited. They probably just brought him down to his level. Like he's like, oh no, don't put limits on my power. Oh, they're still up there. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. Just walks
He's
in.
looking
Yeah, I
up at
wasn't.
the glass ceiling. Everyone else just got brought down. And he's like, yes, this is my moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got the cannon strength in that dungeon, and everybody else is nerfed.
Yeah, but we know that even though Hydaelyn sundered herself, she didn't give up her creation magic
No.
because she created the locker
Yeah.
and gave them
Yes.
creation magic.
Well,
so it was very much a case
it's so
of
funky.
yeah, it's very much a case of rules for thee but not for me. I know how to use this, so I'm gonna keep it. And
Actually-
also, I actually think it would be a really cool plot point if we started seeing a lot of babies born in the source who had creation powers, and how do we deal with that in a sundered world?
That sounds really interesting.
It'll be great.
Can I add something on this topic? It just came to
Yeah.
mind. So the ability to use creation does not require to be a full unsundered soul. We have evidence. The evidence simply is all of the Asian fights we have in the rest of the game. So you can use
Also the
Mitron.
Genesis
You can use
expression
Mitron,
from
for example. And
The
and-
elegant version of it, yeah.
and Eden's promise. That whole thing was creation magic.
I have to mention.
Yeah, you
one
just
thing.
need enough power. It's just that the
You just need
ancients
enough
had
power
these
and the
bounteous
ability.
reserves.
I would and now that actually this popped in my head because what Neela said earlier about recognizable patterns of in the story about other things. I'm kind of thinking, wait, this thing about the shards of sundering Zodiac and Hydaelyn in the different shards, it's kind of reminding me, bringing back the cursed topic of viruses, viruses tearing apart. When we defeated the core, the other limbs disappeared. So, is this what happened to Zodiac and Hydaelyn?
It seems to be because Elidibus says the shard in the first is also bye-bye.
Yeah.
And Rin mentions that she can no longer sense the presence of, well, I assume the Sunder fragment of Hydaelyn. So
They wanted to have it be a clean split, I think, so they just lumped them all together.
yeah, but everything going into, I mean,
Depending
like
upon
we
the core,
discussed,
depending
everything.
upon the heart and the source, yes. I mean, and that also ties to the fact that if the source were to be stricken by the final days and destroyed, the shards would also fall.
Yeah.
That's the same exact principle, actually, and I didn't notice it until you pointed that out, so thanks.
Yeah,
You're
so
big braining.
yeah.
It works forward and back, forward and back, forward and back.
So can you lay that out for
Yeah.
everybody?
So yeah, it's kind of now the source. I'm actually theories as of now. I mean we've discussed this, but if in its sundered state, will Atheris be able to support so much damn ether?
So, yes and no. I think it'll be good that all that aether is returning to Atheris. The problem I see is if we do get unsundered or souls in sundered bodies, a lot of kids are going to wind up killing themselves because they say in Amarant, when we go back, even children have the ability to use creation magic. And they're probably going to use their own ether and wind up just dying.
I assume
be
they would
pretty
get super
grim.
weak in like Logi though and stop,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean
yeah, that's quite a lot.
that would assume that
Unless they make something way too big and don't realize, of course, but
Yeah, it might just start out, hey, I'm going to make myself this toy.
actually,
it actually reminds me of how going by this is probably, but by comparison, it reminds me of how in Final Fantasy 13 2, when after this is a bit of a spoiler, so if you intend to play the trilogy, don't listen to me. After Fangamanil release and gather so many ambient magic crystal to crystallize Cocoon, it stays in the land. It permeates the air, and crystal is basically what allows people to use magic. This is why only Lassie at first could use magic, because a part of their soul crystallized into their idolith. But after 13.2, children and other people, but children mostly because for some reason they're more sensitive to it, they begin to naturally be able to use magic. And there's a data log entry regarding how surprising this is 3 years after the fall of Cocoon. There's a data log entry mentioning how people from Cocoon is actually a bit of taken aback by how quick the children have taken into suddenly yelling fire and actually pulling the fire spell. So it's kind of it reminds me of the process of magic becoming normal for the people of Cocoon, especially children. And that was probably off topic, but sorry.
No, it's fine. We're here to discuss all topics.
Might be a good place to stop for today then.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I
think
wanted
so.
to discuss Garamald, but
Oh, well, we'll make sure we get to it.
We've touched on the
got
first two
lots more
zones.
spoilers.
We've touched
We
on the
got
first
lots-
two zones and time shit.
Yep. So
Yeah,
we will
we've-
tease you with next week's session then.
I think next week we'll go into Garlemald a little bit.
One of the
Maybe
best
some-
written stuff in the game.
Oh, that
Mare
zone is so good.
Lamentorum too.
Yep. Probably
Oh,
Mare,
yes.
and
Oh, goody.
probably Garlemald, and the maybe
And the-
outside of
Bunnies.
hey.
Not the bunnies.
I would prefer to stick to Mare Lamentorum alone.
But
Though
bunnies.
I have to say, when I was introduced the concept of what the moon is and the purpose of it, I was losing it. Neela knows why.
The Loperit, the moon is just full of like little tiny Hemingways.
All right. Well, I guess I'll close up shop here. Welcome. Thank you for coming to Lore Lines. We will see you next week. 42. Guys, episode 42.
It's been a bit.
That's
And
The
I
meaning
can't-
of life. The
I can't
universe.
wait to get to. I can't wait to get to 69.
We got to get through
Oh,
50
yeah.
first. 50 is going to be in March.
Oh, yeah,
and that's
51 's
gonna
gonna
be a
be
crazy
one.
episode.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have to keep in mind that next month is our first anniversary.
It's in March. Oh yeah, no, our actual
No.
anniversary.
It depends on what you
It's
mean.
February.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's
Yeah.
February. I'll
our
have to
first
check, though.
episode.
When was it?
I thought it was March
I
3rd,
think
but
it was
don't
the- I
don't
think-
trust me.
I think it was the 20 something
It
of
might have
February.
been the late February. Yeah, it's possible.
Hmm.
It's in that 2-week period for sure. Either the 3rd or the anyway. Anyway.
Yes,
Yeah,
because I kind of remember because we were in our messy chat room for the trailer, and it was when we started to, for the presentation of Endwalker, and we started to in 2 weeks sort of prepare the entire thing.
We devolved, especially in the early morning hours when we watched live letters.
Yeah. So
Alex,
yeah,
the
episode
Swan guy?
69. That'll be the Lewd Lines episode.
It will
Oh,
include
God.
Fel's balls and the Bone
Yeah.
Throne.
Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
talking about extreme raid progression.
So
Oh,
episode
man.
69, I would have to draw everyone's avatars naked.
Oh, jeez.
You do
Fine,
that,
we'll just
I'm
have
not
sensor
kidding.
bars.
Only
Oh,
if
that's
you
really
put her in
fun.
an Asian glyph too.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah,
glyph
sensor
stays
bars.
on.
Sensor bars.
The glyph stays on.
Yeah, the glyphs can be the sensor.
That's so funny.
Not kin sensors, yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. Hope you all have a great week. We will see you next time. Thank you for coming to Lorelines.
Have a
Thanks
good
so
week.
much, everyone.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.